Hello everybody, welcome to Dakman Productions and welcome to Conahey Rail. So I had ordered or pre-ordered a couple Atlas items. They arrived last week and I wasn't thinking that I was going to do an unboxing video because you know this stuff here I've got before when it was MTH, because this is all previous MTH molds, hence the Atlas Premier. So all this is all old MTH molds which I've had before in the past. But when I unboxed the box and I looked inside, I was like shocked. So I was a little confused of what to think. So I made a post because I run the Atlas 2 and 3 rail Facebook group. I started that. Got a lot of members there, so if you're looking to join that group, go to Facebook. Be glad to have you. We discuss Atlas O, but you can post other brands as well. But I started mainly for the fans of Atlas O. But I made the post there, and people have commented their thoughts. So right now, I'm going to show you these cars because I'm still a little confused. I actually had stepped back for an entire week to think about this because I've also got some personal things going on which I'm not going to talk about. So I know my personality, when I have personal things going on, I have a tendency to not think straight. So this is where I need help from you, the viewers, and you're going to see where this is going. So let me get rid of this for right now. We'll look at that later. We're going to talk about these Atlas Premier Conrail hopper cars, and you're going to understand why. So when I took these out of the box, the first thing I noticed was the color of it. I'm like, that color looks way off to me. So let's get this out on the track. We'll talk about the hoppers itself and what people on the Facebook group, their thoughts. And then in the end, I would like your thoughts, because I know there's YouTube channels out there and people out there who criticize colors on locomotives. But I barely see anybody talk about freight cars, and which is one of the reasons why I do videos on freight cars, how prototypical they are, how correct they are, show you the real version if it really existed. Because I don't see many channels doing that. And some people find that kind of history on freight cars boring. They rather focus on locomotives, and that's all fine. Everybody's got their likes of what they want to do and what they would like to watch. I find prototypical information and reviewing freight cars, I like doing it. So I'm going to continue to do it for those who enjoy it on my channel as well. So my question for you, the viewers, I know viewers who are very critical about colors on a locomotive. I mean, if it's off, it's a big deal. So is it just as critical on the freight cars for you, the viewers, or it's like, well, whatever, it's just a freight car, I'm just going to go ahead and put it up against my locomotive that better be color correct? So, yeah, so that's a question I have for the viewers and what you guys think, but anyway, enough babbling. Let's get this thing out here on the track and we'll talk about it and compare it to one of the former MTH molds. So I thought this would be a great Sunday video discussion for everybody here. So this car here to the right of the screen is the brand new Atlas O Premier Conrail hopper car. The one next to it is the old MTH Premier hopper car. Both coming out of the same molds. And my understanding is, even though Atlas now has the mold, MTH mold, it's still being made at the MTH factory, which is kind of surprising to me. If that's true, why the color shade would be so far off. So when I made a post about this on the Atlas 2 and 3 rail group, I always like to see what the members' thoughts are, and that kind of gauges me how to create the video, so I know how people would react in general when I finally get it up on YouTube. So I like to use my Facebook group as a test water on how to create a video. And this is basically so I don't insult anybody, including the manufacturer. Yeah, I was a little disappointed at first, I'm not going to lie, quite honestly, because people do like my honesty. And I just didn't understand how the color could be that far off. But I'm going to go over a couple of the comments that people left, which I can understand. So one member had said, Sean, in the catalog, it actually looks the same color as it was in the catalog. To his defense, that is true. There's no denying that. But, however, when it comes to digital images in the catalog, they were just that. Just digital generic images. And I was sort of expecting, okay, the color looks off in the catalog, but once it arrives, it should be the correct color. So, yeah, it was that color in the catalog. So, again, that's me being honest about the whole entire thing. And just me assuming it was a generic, digitalized photo, and it was just going to be the right color, or the brown color that I see on my other MTH hoppers. But that was not the case. The other comments that seem to be more common was, okay, it's just the Conroe weathered hopper. Alright, so if the brown got washed down, it may look like this. Yeah, I can see that. However, you know, if it was going to be a weathered car, it should have been advertised as such, in my opinion. For example, in the Lionel 2024 book, there are weathered cars in there. And I did pre-order a Conroe weathered car because, you know, it was advertised at that. I know to expect a weathered car, and when it gets here. So, again, yeah, it's a great start for weathering a car if you wanted to take from this point on. In the world of HO, Athearn has a product line called Prime for Grime. So what they do is they weather the car in a dull paint job, much like what's done here. And that gives you a starting point for applying weathering, such as rust streaks, maybe some graffiti, so forth and so on. And that line is advertised as Prime for Grime, so when you go shopping for Athearn products, it'll say right on the box whether it's Prime for Grime or not, or advertised as such. So if this was like a Prime for Grime, yeah, it would be a perfect starting point for doing some weathering. Maybe it is a possibility, you know, DAC Band finally starts to do some weathering or experiment with weathering, you know, starting with these. So that was a lot of comments. So people were actually putting a positive spin on this. And finally, there was only one comment out of all the comments on that whole entire post that said, return it. Most people were willing to keep it. So, you know, at this point, it's like, okay, let me make this video. And more likely, yeah, I'll end up keeping it. But let me know if this was a problem for you guys, if this would be a problem for you, the viewers out there. I'm kind of like divided in half. You know, one says okay, yeah, and one says I'm not sure. I don't know. It's like
You ever get torn in half on something? Well, this is that time for me. So you guys know I love researching freight cars that I get. And I did run into a picture that was close to this color. So maybe it was kind of faded. Maybe, I don't know. I'm going to insert this picture here. And let me know what you guys think. So yeah, that's pretty close or dead on to what you're seeing in that picture. And maybe the MTH ones are a little too dark brown. I don't know. But maybe Conrail used different colors of brown paint. But again, if the photo could even be off as far as how it was shot, the daylight, the film type, so you never know, because there wasn't a lot of digital photos back in the day. Alright, so let's move on. About a year or so ago, maybe even 2 years it's been since I ran my coal drag last. And somebody made a comment saying, Conrail never had 4-bay coal hoppers. So I ended up believing them without doing my own research. So I can tell you this, from this point forward, when somebody says Conrail never had something, you best believe I'm going to research it myself. And then I'm going to say, hey, yo, yeah, I found it, if they really did have it. So the viewer commented that Conrail only had 3-bay hopper cars, and that the Lionel ones are correct. Conrail never had 4-bay hoppers, so the MTH ones are incorrect. Well, he's incorrect. So when I researched these hopper cars, I found out that Conrail actually had both 3-bay and 4-bay hopper cars. And here's a picture. So the 3-bay, I learned that the 3-bay hopper cars were Conrail model designation H1. Those were mainly 3-bay hopper cars. And then the 4-bay hopper cars, as you see in this photo, are Conrail model designation H2. So the 3-bay and the 4-bay hopper cars have chutes underneath of them and a dump coal at the bottom. This was actually the old way of dumping coal. So the railroads started using coal porters. There's a couple different names for them. Rotary gondolas, coal porters. Basically, there's no chute at the bottom of the hopper. So the hopper car actually has to go through a special rotary coal dump where it gets turned upside down as it's going through. There are plenty of videos on rotary coal dumps. Al at Millhouse River has made some really nice rotary coal dumps. If you're interested in that, just make sure you're buying the proper rotary coal dumps or the coal porters that have the coupler that actually rotates. So, for example, on the MTH coal porters that they made, one end of the coupler does swivel. See that? It will not do that on the hopper cars that have the chutes on the bottom. Only the coal porters do this. I know there's viewers out there who love interesting stories, so I got a short one here for you. Norfolk Southern had black hopper cars, much like this Conrail one you're looking at. These hopper cars were getting in pretty bad shape as years went on. They were getting rotted out. Norfolk Southern was struggling a little bit with funds. So they knew these cars were coming up on their 50-year age anyway, so they didn't really want to put a whole lot more money into them. What they ended up doing is cutting the bottoms of these hoppers completely off and putting in a solid bottom without the chutes on them. The person in charge of this project, which I can't remember his name now, but he was a big fan of the original movie with Tom Cruise called Top Gun. So that's how he came up with the name Top Gun for his, basically his project of rebuilding these hopper cars just to get a few more years out of them so Norfolk Southern could gather up some funds to eventually replace them. So when they were put back into service again, they were repainted from black to gray and received the trademarked Top Gun name on them. So here's my next new arrival, and I wanted to do some research on this as well before I talked about it, because there was a couple things I noticed about it and I wasn't quite sure. So I wanted to make sure that I was pretty accurate in my statements when I talk about this. So when I opened up the box again, did my unboxing to get this Caboose out, I noticed the road number is 18882R. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute now. So in the world of Conrail, R meant restricted speeds. So that meant this car was past its 50-year age at that point in time that letter R was put on the Caboose, meaning it was for MOW use only, or perhaps a shoving platform. But any rail cars, when it reached its 50-year-old age capacity, it was you either had to scrap it or you could put it in the MOW service. And the way Conrail would do this was several different ways, and I explained that. For example, on the Lionel MOW car that I last reviewed, that was brown with a yellow patch on it, and that was an example of a patched MOW car. And I did mention in that video how not all of the Conrail MOW cars made it into MOW paint. Sometimes they would patch them. Sometimes they would just put a letter designation on it, just like we see here on this Caboose. So I actually looked this particular road number up, and believe it or not, I actually found it, pictures of it with the letter R on it. Now, for once, I cannot complain about Atlas using non-rotating wheel bearing caps, because believe it or not, that particular Caboose really did have friction bearing trucks on it. So friction bearing trucks were banned from interchange service in 1991 on hazmat material freight cars, and then eventually banned altogether in 1994 on the interchange. This particular Caboose, number 18882, is a former Central New Jersey number 91545. Now, this is not the first time this particular Caboose was made as a MOW Caboose, or speed restricted Caboose. MTH actually made one as well when it was the MTH days, and here you can see it. This road number here actually made it into the gray MOW paint. However, the big mistake that MTH made is they forgot to put the letter R on the end of it. So here you go, the Atlas O version, which is correct, letter R. Really did stay in the blue paint. And then we have the MTH version, just missing the letter R. So I hope you enjoyed the video and the prototypical information behind the Conrail hoppers and the Caboose. Let me know what you think about this Conrail hopper here. Is it a big deal? Not a big deal? Love to hear your thoughts. And I plan on running a cold drag for my next video. I know I've run this cold drag 3 times or 4 times on video already. So I'm going to change it up a little bit. I'm going to make this very interesting. So I'm going to run, and I normally run it as a DPU. If you don't know what DPU means, stay tuned for that video next week and I'll explain what DPU means. Also, I'm going to change it up. So I'm going to have my normal 2 SD80 Max up front. And then in the middle of the train, I'm going to have an SD80 Mac coupled up to a SD45 as a mid-locomotive helper. On the end of that train,
I plan on having my SD40, SD40-2, and SD38 pushing from behind. And out of all these locomotives, all of them but the two in the middle will be powered. So it's going to be interesting to see how this works out for me. But yeah, I think that's going to be a cool run. And the inspiration for that is somebody sent me a video of a like a real early 80s, late 70s Conroe coal drag. And they actually had 4 locomotives pushing that coal drag from behind, and I was like, wow, that's really awesome. So, at any rate, I'll catch you guys next time, train show. Catch you trackside. Goodbye.